Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day to start things off. It says Bitcoin was tailing the US stock market in its boom and bust since March. But the short-term correlation broke this Thursday as the two distinctive markets started moving in opposite directions. The Bitcoin to dollar exchange rate increased towards $8,000 and a surprising price rally, breaking above crucial resistance levels to indicate a short-term bull run. A similar move ensured in the top Bitcoin rival markets that surged 1.95% or 1.95 billion at the London midnight close, and there's a little chart right there. In contrast, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gave up its 400-point upside move to close Thursday a mere 0.2% higher. Other top U.S. indexes, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite, too fell by 0.1% and 0.75% respectively. The decline in the U.S. equities came after the Financial Times reported that something or someone or a company was trying to get rid of 19, but apparently it did not work. And I mentioned this before a couple of days ago, not to be a Debbie Downer, it's more of a just keep it realistic for the moment. The fact that any markets around the world anywhere would go up on the speculation that something could completely eradicate 19 is nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. We barely know ourselves the full extent of what 19 actually is. So the interesting part being, once again, especially in the video that we were discussing yesterday, we also had new jobless numbers just within the United States. I think it was 4.4 million additional people last week who had applied for joblessness. I think it's now, 26 million? 25? I don't remember the exact number, but it's 15% of people within America are now, or rather the jobless rate within America is now 15%, to put it more accurately as the numbers would go. So the cryptocurrency market is still doing relatively well. We are still up. Prices appear, at least at the time of me making this video, that they are poised to continue to go higher. They continue to move higher. We had a little dip, if you will, last evening, but prices have since then recovered, if you will, and are continuing to move higher. A lot of people believe that if this maintains, if the weekend ends well, that we could be well on our way to $8,000, if not $8,200 to $8,300 per Bitcoin. And if that sustains as we move closer towards the halving event and the hype that this event could potentially generate, then therefore we could be seeing a $10,000 Bitcoin by May and or June. Speculation. All of that is obviously complete speculation. However, the fact that Bitcoin's price is doing well, and even some days shows a bit of correlation to traditional markets, but continues to kind of break out of these patterns and kind of move on its own, as it relatively should, because it has nothing to do with traditional markets except for the other up and down side of them. Anyway, that's the news for prices, if you will. Crypto market's doing okay, and let's see if this actually continues even during the rest of the day. Once we have world markets around the world open, and see if they falter, and if crypto falters, or if crypto does well, then we probably get a good indication as to at least where the weekend is going to take us. Let's move on. Next up, Bogota-based financial services company Value has, Value has launched a Bitcoin-powered synthetic US dollar on Wednesday to simplify cross-remittances for Venezuela and ultimately circumvent the hyperinflation that is currently hobbling the country's economic growth. Making cross-border remittances in a country like Venezuela, which has been long ridden by severe international sanctions, hyperinflation, and almost stagnant economy growth, can be extremely challenging. For those who weren't here last year, we kept on going over news. I mean, it was every other day Venezuela was in the news. I think their inflation rate, or hyperinflation rate, I think went over 1,000,000%. It was one of the oddest things I'd ever witnessed. Although several developments have been made to tackle this concern, such as launching a groundbreaking SMS-based crypto payment service that enables Venezuelans to send crypto directly through text or SMS. There have been none that primarily address the hyperinflation. However, Colombia's payment startup Value may have found the answer. On Wednesday, its CEO, Simon Chamorro, took to Twitter in an innovative Bitcoin-backed synthetic US dollar that enables cross-border transactions directly to banks' accounts in Venezuela. Although still in the primary alpha testing stage, the startup has collaborated with a food delivery app called Rappi, which I assume it's supposed to be Rapido, which will help it acquire a large user base for the product once it launches full-fledged later this year, the announcement claims. As far as I know, here's the actual tweet right here. It appears that this is a collateralized dollar on top of Bitcoin, which is very fascinating because especially the other news that we're going to be talking about relatively soon. I'm seeing a major uptick, and I don't know. I don't know what the crypto politics are of this person who created this, but I'm seeing a large increase, and I make sure to mention it every time that I see it as well so that you kind of get the major picture. The entire idea that Bitcoin is a store of value or digital gold has picked up greatly over the last 2-3 years. Like, the narrative has kind of caught people's attention. I still see negative articles about, oh, Bitcoin's going down. What happened to the digital gold? It has nothing to do with that. It has the idea that eventually it will become this fortress of value. However, at the moment, as many people around the world are hoarding or hodling their Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in an attempt to just not simply sell them, because if we start getting price predictions that Bitcoin is going to hit 100, 300, 500,000 per coin, if not a million per coin, why would I want to give it up? So it appears that a lot of people are building things directly on top of Bitcoin, which still utilizes the Bitcoin network, and are transacting in Bitcoin while other people transact in some other type of value, if that kind of makes sense. It should. I simplified it as much as humanly possible. Very fascinating. I hope this ends up working out. Who knows? We know that in general, we've had news before that people within Venezuela are using Bitcoin and Dash as alternative ways of payments. We know that it's accepted in like Subway and other places, and you can kind of get your food, but I think a lot of that has been clamped down on. We also had news last year, which also surprised me, that the entire point of Bitcoin was that eventually governments would topple. They would fall, their economic policies would not do well, and when they did not do well, they would be forced to kind of use Bitcoin. We had news last year that after the 1,000,000% hyperinflation, I kid you not, this all happened, Venezuela was going through it. 1,000,000% hyperinflation, people were carrying around not wheelbarrows worth of cash, but it was kind of pretty much close, and the Venezuelan government announced, this was an actual official announcement, they said if you want to send money into Venezuela, you have to do it through our national currency, that is their paper currency, the Bolivar, or you have to do it through the Petro, which is their central bank digital currency, or you could send it through Litecoin or Bitcoin. So the entire thing had come to fruition. A government had almost collapsed, things weren't going well, their money was completely in the gutter, and they announced, we're going to allow you, or rather, if you want to send money into the country, send it in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's price did not react. This is why I say the cryptocurrency market is nonsense. A lot of people in the market don't pay attention. I think a lot of people who are in the cryptocurrency space, this is why I always say, it's imperative. What do I always say? Do your own research. And I don't mean just read everything you can, absorb as much information as you possibly can. The fact that we even had one country who bent the knee and said, yes, please send Bitcoin if you're trying to send money. I don't even care what the political backside of it might have been. People were saying this was done as a way for means of control. It doesn't matter. The point is they openly admitted, please, this is one of the only ways that we can or will allow you to send money to the country. The point is, it doesn't really matter. The cryptocurrency market isn't very logical. I think a lot of people who have gotten into the cryptocurrency space, this is why I always say I think people just view Bitcoin as an investment vehicle, as opposed to something that is literally changing the face of the world as we actually know it. All the things that have stemmed from this blockchain revolution come directly from Bitcoin. All of the ideas come from the idea of Bitcoin, and they've been modified or built upon or made faster. Doesn't matter. The point is, it usually always revolves around Bitcoin. And anyway, once again, here's the tweet. And let us move on. Next up, the volume of Bitcoin in Argentine pesos has risen exponentially since the 2018 cryptocurrency crash, as the country faces a possible default of $65 billion in foreign debt. Arcane Research posted data to Twitter on the 23rd of April showing that the weekly volume of Bitcoin purchased with Argentinian pesos has jumped 1,028% since January 2018. However, the volume from Bitcoin and US dollar has shown substantial increases of 407 and 139% respectively. There's a little chart right there. Does this chart look familiar? It's almost exactly the same, or looks exactly. This is it. From local Bitcoin. I was wondering why this looked almost exactly the same. We had news in 2018 and 2019 that there were huge upticks in the amount of people in Argentina, Venezuela, Brazil, or two other countries, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, who were actively buying Bitcoin, as much Bitcoin as they possibly could. And this was even during the throes of inflation, hyperinflation, overturn this and so that, and flip-flop, whatever. Tons of people within South America specifically. I think there were other data points for Africa and Southeast Asia, but we focused more on South America because I think they were kind of hit the hardest, or rather they were showing the most amount of levels of inflation. Tons of people. You see this chart? This is insane. The amount of people who are, and this is, once again, I assume this is just data from local Bitcoins. That is an app, something on your computer, on your phone, where you meet people in person to be able to give them cash to get Bitcoin. Not the safest thing in the world. However, that's just one platform. That's not even taking into account how many other people are figuring out other ways to actually accumulate Bitcoin on themselves as well. It's still completely staggering to see an increase like this at all for anything. Anything going up by 1,028% is insanity. Nonetheless, for the actual volume of people within one country who are just trying to acquire Bitcoin. The surge is happening as the government is about to default on its debt, and the country is suffering from inflation. The Argentinian government has yet to put forward a way for the country to restructure roughly $65 billion in foreign debt, leading to a possible, there's going to be a default. Buenos Aires missed scheduled payments totaling $500 million on 3 foreign bonds on the 22nd of April, triggering a countdown to a formal default in mid-May. Fascinating. I mean, it just does not get any more interesting than all of this. You'd better believe this is going to continue. Governments, especially at the moment. First of all, governments have no intention of ever paying off any of their debts, which is why the debt crisis is a very big crisis, because they're taking out billions of dollars worth of debt. Sometimes hundreds of billions, if not low trillions of dollars in debt, and that they have no intention of ever paying back to any other country or any other person who is giving them that loan. At some point, it is going to buckle. We're seeing a lot of the buckles happening right now, especially when the actual global economy can't do well after 10 weeks of being closed. That is a problem. It's one thing for small businesses. It's one thing for restaurants. It's one thing for cafes, bars, what have you. But when major institutions, major companies, countries can't sustain themselves after 10 weeks, there's no extra cash behind the scenes to keep them afloat, or they have to start printing more to make sure that everything else looks like it's afloat. That is a problem. So I dare say kudos to the people of Argentina for understanding that there is trouble, and more trouble is probably going to go ahead. Yeah, I mean, the numbers are right there. It's just the world that we live in. And the saddest part for me always is that no matter how many crashes, no matter how many depressions or recessions or things that we have, governments never fix their policies. Like, things are never really fixed. Like, they're patched over for the next 20 years, so that 20 years later, the people who are in charge don't care about the actual policies, because they go, it's worked for the last 20 years, why do we have to fix it? And then things start crumbling, they patch it up, and then it's kind of passed on and passed on and passed on. Never learn. Never learn. Let's move on. Next up, in news, and I mean, I was bombarded by this news. This was the craziest news. I get it, but I mean, come on, at the same exact time. In an announcement on Friday, the 24th of April, BitMEX unveiled yet another contract, strengthening its claim as the top crypto derivatives exchange. In a post on their official website, BitMEX will offer its customers the Ethereum Quanto futures, fancy, which are similar to the perpetual contracts offered by the exchange. However, there's a small difference. The BitMEX ETH US dollar Quanto futures will be margin traded using XBT contracts. I know some of you got that, some of you didn't, and I'll explain why in a second. The contracts are expected to go live on the 5th of May. That's 2019. That is definitely not correct. Offering up to, it'll be offered in the past, offering up to 50x leverage on the trade. They said we are launching an ETH USD Quanto futures with up to 50x leverage on the 5th of May, etc., etc. The new product is the first ever offered on a crypto derivatives exchange, signaling BitMEX ambitions in securing the top spot in this market. Where was the other part? The announcement reads, trading margins, XBT, Bitcoin futures contracts, and earn or lose Bitcoin as the ETH US rate changes. Did you get it? Here's the actual announcement right here from BitMEX. It says, announcing the ETH USD Quanto futures contracts. I kept on seeing this thrown around everywhere. BitMEX launching, and it was always touted as Bitcoin. BitMEX, I hate the word bit because it's everywhere. BitMEX launching Ethereum futures. New Ethereum futures launching on BitMEX. BitMEX launching new Ethereum Quanto futures. Quanto futures launching, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Yeah. We've had Ethereum futures before. That's kind of cool. And then when you read through the articles, it's constantly touted as a trade between the ETH USD on XBT contracts, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then it smacked me very hard in the face. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says BitMEX is launching new Ether US dollars futures, which settle in Bitcoin. For those of you who've never day traded, used many different cryptocurrency exchanges, what happens is that a lot of cryptocurrency exchanges, for some odd reason that I'll never be able to understand in my heart, I know there's a reason for it. However, I think there's still as opposed to using the letters BTC, they denominate it as XBT. So they are launching a Ether US dollar futures, which are going to actually settle in Bitcoin. That's crazy. This goes back to what I was saying once again earlier. We're seeing an enormous amount of action happening on Bitcoin without Bitcoin having to actively be used. There are tons of things that are being launched, created, proposed, where Bitcoin as the actual underlying thing, or rather like the literal underlying thing, is being used while other things are being used. And that can be anything from wrapping coins around Bitcoin. You buy Bitcoin, you have Bitcoin, you custody it, or you smart contract it into something. You create other coins that are then based off of that Bitcoin, which then lessens the supply of actual Bitcoin circulating around, as these new wrapped coins, or Tezos Bitcoin coins, are then thrust into circulation. The same exact thing if you have an Ether US dollar futures, which then gets settled in Bitcoin, which means that Bitcoin is still being passed around without Bitcoin even having to actively be used. The payments are settled completely in Bitcoin. Well, this is about a payment system that uses the US dollar to kind of stabilize the value that people are sending back and forth within countries, that is still powered by Bitcoin. I think we are going to see a lot more of this. And I mention that only because it is very unlikely in the future, very unlikely, that people in mass will be using Bitcoin. Very unlikely anytime soon. I don't expect it to be used as a payment method. I don't expect people to go into Starbucks to buy a latte with it. I don't expect people to go into Marks and Spencer's to buy, what does Marks and Spencer's have? Shoes? I expect we will see an uptick in people who are doing so. Yes, maybe 1%, but the vast majority of people are not going to be spending their Bitcoin or using their Bitcoin anytime soon. Once again, $500,000 Bitcoin. You'd be very upset with yourself if you got rid of it. The point is, yeah, so this is crazy. Not only are they going to have another Ether to US dollar futures, which is cool, it's going to settle completely in Bitcoin. That also follows the news. What was it, a day or two ago? There's another new whatchamjaggers. There's another cryptocurrency exchange who also just announced physical Bitcoin futures. This happened about two days ago. So it's this entire idea of you don't have to spend or move around Bitcoin. The Bitcoin will still be moving around in itself. We are going to see a lot more things, especially, oh my gosh, it's so fascinating, especially with all these new DeFi platforms that are going to be launching, or these new DeFi so-and-so that are going to be built directly on top of Bitcoin, so that you have to, the same exact way that Ether is getting a bullish push by buying up Ether, locking it up, and therefore activating, if you will, the new DeFi platforms. The same exact thing is happening on Bitcoin, is going to happen more in mass on Bitcoin as well. It is incredibly fascinating because this, in a way, they found ways for Bitcoin to be used without Bitcoin actually having to be used. How incredible is that? I think I'm one of the things I'm most excited about the end of this year, or maybe I even say the January of next year. Not trying to rush time, but it's more of a, the news that we got at the beginning of this year was that Bitcoin had transacted over $1 trillion worth of value just in 2019 alone. And that was with like a lot of things not really launching. So imagine all the new things that are launching that are going to be utilizing Bitcoin specifically, or actually settling in Bitcoin, sending Bitcoin back and forth. I wonder if we will break that number of $1 trillion in value transferred just through Bitcoin through this year. Fascinating. I love it so much. All right, let's move on. Next up, despite the blockades, embargoes, and financial sanctions that have hit the island nation, the people of Cuba have shown to be adept at overcoming obstacles, and one resident of Cuba, in particular, is doing exactly that for crypto on the island. Earlier this month, Mario Mazzola, the creator of the ultra-lightweight Bitcoin wallet Qubita, launched the Qubita exchange, the first decentralized Bitcoin exchange of its kind in the world. While crypto isn't illegal in Cuba, there is no regulatory framework for it either. This, combined with US sanctions, poor internet service, and other restrictions, has meant that the largest and most important crypto exchanges and wallet providers in the world avoid Cuba altogether. So Mazzolo has taken it upon himself to develop an all-in-one crypto ecosystem on his own, a Bitcoin wallet, a payments platform, and now a peer-to-peer exchange. He said, I created Qubita exchange because I believe... Oh, nope. I have always been convinced that here in Cuba, Bitcoin is a real necessity. You don't say. He told Decrypt, in order for Cuba to catch up to the other parts of the world, the country needs to buy, sell, use, and store Bitcoin easily and safely. Qubita solves all of these problems. I hope, for his sake, that this is not shut down, because I love the idea of it. There are a lot of places you forget how lucky and privileged you are that you are able to not only have a bank account, that you are able to have quick internet service, that you are allowed to have a smartphone, that you are allowed to buy, sell, use, and trade and hold what you want. There are many places on this planet where people cannot do so. So the idea of having one cryptocurrency exchange, while that may sound insane, that is probably a lifeline for many people within that country. I hope it does not get shut down. I hope in some ways he has discussions with regulators in the country so that they don't just barge in one day and say that he's been doing something illegal for the past 3 to 4 years. Because what ends up happening is they know you're doing something illegal, but they won't tell you from the get-go that you're doing something illegal. They make sure that years down the line that they've compiled tons of stuff against you to make sure to get you in trouble, as opposed to being like, hey, you're doing something that's not good. Stop it now. You won't get in trouble. Anyway, so this is fascinating. I really hope this continues, because I think there are many places on this planet. I was reading an article about a day or two ago. It had to do with places on the planet that are currently under sanctions. I think it's about 12 to 16 at the moment. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's between 12 and 16 countries. And how it's clear that especially during 19, they're taking initiatives to make sure that when all of this is over, that they can rebuild their economies. It didn't say Bitcoin specifically, but it said through the use of digital means of payments. I was talking to my other friend who deals in real estate, and we were talking about the closed door meetings that we assume are taking place right now have to be insane. Can you imagine the topics that are being discussed by other countries as far as ways to either not even avoid sanctions, to completely not care about them anymore as well? Like, we actually have a payment system that works, that doesn't go down, that works 24 hours a day, that each country themselves could set up a couple hundred, even just a couple hundred, if not a couple thousand, miners in a cave somewhere or in a fortress or warehouse somewhere, and can start mining Bitcoin themselves and just transact it directly between themselves in Bitcoin. We live in the future. It is insane to even think that. And even more so, they could even just be using, they could even be accumulating crypto or creating something that is then tethered to the actual price of Bitcoin and or wrapped in Bitcoin, or a stable coin that comes from the actual use of the Bitcoin blockchain, and completely avoid sanctions altogether. Nonetheless, all the other countries, remember last year when I found the article from like 2012, it was the UK, Germany, France, Italy, China, Australia. I don't think Russia was there. And I think 2 other countries who were trying to propose a new type of currency altogether that completely circumvented the US dollar. And then poof, no more mention of that, because I'm pretty sure like Big Brother was like, no, that's not how this works. Anyway, yeah, so the answer is already there. It's just a matter of if countries will decide to answer the call. Because anyway, let's move on. And in wow, really? News? Blockstream chief executive and cryptographer Adam Back says a 200-word post from back in 1999, a decade before Bitcoin was launched, appears to carry the hallmarks of the anonymous creator of Satoshi Nakamoto. The text is part of a back and forth among the cypherpunks, a group of activists who emerged in the late 80s advocating cryptography, anonymity, and personal privacy. Back, who is referenced in the Bitcoin white paper, is a long-time member of the movement and the inventor of Hashcash, a proof-of-work system that ultimately became a cornerstone for Bitcoin. For those of you who have no idea what any of that just meant, apparently the idea is that Satoshi Nakamoto maybe isn't just one person. People think it's actually a group of people who, once again, originated in the 80s. I read a book about this before. I think they became hyperactive in the 90s and created, I think, multiple other ways of trying to transact value through the digital space. However, I think a lot of them were shut down. A lot of them just seemingly did not work. But it appears that Bitcoin might have been one of their works as well, and was the one that kind of took off. In a series of tweets, Back says he has unearthed a post from the early cypherpunk days featuring an anonymous author who spouted a number of Bitcoin's ideals, including how to successfully secure a virtual currency in a decentralized manner. It says, one possibility is to make the double spending database public. Wherever someone receives a coin, they broadcast its value. The database operates in parallel across a large number of servers, so it is intractable to shut it down. Here's the thing right here. This was all over the place. I think it's cool. I'll tell you now. I think it's kind of awesome. I even think it's kind of cool. If you've never gone through Twitter and found the actual old post from Satoshi Nakamoto, it's actually kind of cool because they're just there. Like, they just kind of just sit there. You can actually see that the first things that Nakamoto was saying to other people discussing what Bitcoin was. He's like, in 4 days, I'm going to be launching something crazy. It's going to change your whole world. He didn't say that, but he was like talking about the things that he plans on launching that he was going to do. He was discussing with other people after it had launched what we should do, how we should change this. Someone was like, I found a fault in the code, change this. He's like, okay, thank you. And it's fascinating to see like this revolution started with just Reddit posts. It's kind of insane. So this was all over the place that apparently someone had found new text from said Nakamoto, him or themselves. And yeah, while I think it's cool, no one can say for certain if this was Nakamoto. So yeah, I mean, cool. I think I would just leave it at that. It's cool. It's awesome. But no one can say for certain if Nakamoto is talking to us from the past, if you want to put it into that context. I mean, this was everywhere. I mean, all over the place. What was the other thing that we had last year? There was something. It's not that someone that. It wasn't something that was found that appeared to be like Nakamoto. I think it was something. Someone said that Nakamoto had reposted under his Reddit name, and I think it was just someone who had like copied it and took all his other text, but you could like see the actual like dated things within it, and it was clear that it had just been made. Anyway, cool, wonderful, amazing news Bitcoin time to have. I don't know. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters, Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Yasha Harari, Moonman High, XRP, The Pothead, Joshua Vineyard, Martin Stoyer, Josh Gorsica, Chongololo, Tsongololo, A Bibliophobia, The Animal Reader, John Sarson, Nostromo, Barebones Mining, Todd Mullis, Adam Graysick, Mohameroni Master Ventures in Thailand, Brady Neal, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the world, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Crypto Artist, Cole D3D, Nicholas Renorth, One Piece, One Love, Richie Rich III, Nick Kanaya, Setsuna, Damien, Vlad the Impaler, Crypto Biz Shipmate, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Gardner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, Miller Hitch Chest Every Day, and Cal Skips Leg Day, Yes to Crypto, Bodie McBoatface, Anytime Fitness, Monk's Corner Staff, Arfmedic17, Bake Me a Cake, Tigara Macho Nisa on Crypto with Lionel, Crayola Michelle, URL, and hold on, ... I have to sneeze. Thank you all very, very much for your support. Thank you to every single one of you who is a member of the channel, who clicked the little join button below. And thank you to everyone who has been using the affiliate links. I really can't say thank you enough. It's quite staggering. At the momento, the market's up. So it's like a sideways up, but we're still up. Bitcoin is currently up by 7%. It is at 7569.8790 US dollars at the moment. Ethereum is up by 4%. XRP is up by 4.7%. I almost said Light Cash. Litecoin is up by 7.5% as well. Tezos is up by 15%, securing its spot within the top 10 of coins. Cardano's up by 17%. Quite fascinating indeed. Let's see if this momentum can continue as the day ends up going on. I'm trying to... Digibyte is up by 44% on $17 million volume. So, let's see where all of this leads us. I would like to believe in a perfect understanding world that collectively the human mind has come together to understand the benefits of Bitcoin and blockchain, and they're simply buying up crypto en masse as a way to fight the power and to show everyone that they are in control. However, reality probably tells me this was a bump in price by people who were buying up because other markets were going up, or it could just simply be a rush upward as we move closer to the halving. I have never been more excited for something in a while. I was gonna say in my entire life. That is a complete lie. There's been times when I knew I was gonna eat cake and I was happier than the halving, because I like cake. Anyway, yeah, I think that is definitely going to do it for this video. I'm excited to see how the rest of the weekend plays out, especially as all this madness is going on. I do hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.